final point that I want to make is the concept of own the room, control the environment. Number one fear people have. They sent out surveys to thousands of people. They sent out their responses back, and they listed the top 10 fears. What are your top 10 fears? What are you afraid of being on the planet Earth? You would think that the number one fear people have would be death. Death was number 6. Number one fear people have was the fear of public speaking. Standing up in front of the audience was terrifying, and I would imagine of all the people in the world, probably 99% of them sit in the chair. They spend their entire life sitting in the chair. Only 1% of the audience actually gets up and stands up in front of the audience. Now, the problem with that is that since the number one fear people have is the fear of public speaking, what they do then is they come up with a firewall. They stand up there in front of the audience with a firewall in front of them, which then even limits their delivery even more. So therefore, when you own the room, you have no firewall. There is no protection between you and the audience. All your energy is on offense. There is no energy on defense. You want to be able to own the room. Now, the own the room concept came from the book, Roger Ailes' book, You Are the Message. He talks about control the atmosphere. And I thought it was brilliant because based on my 25, 30 years experience of being up in front of audiences, I would say, yep, right on the mark. When you walk in front of an audience, you want to be able to own the room. And you want the people in the audience to know that you own the room. Now, what does own the room mean? Easy definition is that you control the time and you control the space. When you walk up in front of the audience and you are able to control the time, control the timing, control the rate and the pace of your delivery, to be able to pause, control the atmosphere. Roger Ailes' definition right at the beginning is that when you control the atmosphere, you control the time and you control the space. Now, what does time mean? Time is not, we're going to end at 4:30. That's not what I mean by control the time. Controlling the time is controlling the rate and the pace of your delivery. So as soon as you walk up in front of the audience, do you control the time or don't you control the time? Most IT professionals, when you watch them, are unconscious and they have no control of time. And therefore, the perception is they are weak. They don't own the room. They don't control the environment. One of the great presenters would be Bill Clinton. When you watch Bill Clinton, he walks up in front of the room. And when I've seen him on television, one of the things he seems to do a lot is he walks up in front of the audience and he doesn't start talking right away. He walks up, takes a second or two, and then starts delivery. When you watch your average IT professional, they just start walking up and start talking right away. If you could just pause for a second, 2 seconds, before you started to speak, then it would communicate to the audience that you have control. You're not at the effect of the audience. You are the alpha. You are the king. You are in charge of the room. And the audience wants you to be in charge. They don't want to sit for an hour watching a beta performance up here. They'd rather watch an alpha person up here who is in control of the time, control of the space. Now, what do we mean by space? What do we mean by space is that all the things in the room you own. It's an attitude that you own it. Now, do you really own it? No. But it's an attitude that you own the room, that you're able to move your body around the room. You're not intimidated by the room. You're not intimidated by the individuals in the room. You can walk right up to people. You can do what you want to. You can take objects. You can create mass demonstrations like I did earlier, showing the data and showing the space packets. Picking a ball up, for example. Picking a ball up in the middle of the presentation, and you're going to use it to demonstrate something. But let's say you just bounce the ball before you start talking. Or you pick the ball up and you throw it like that. Now, what does that have to do with your IT presentation? nothing. But it communicates to the people in the room that you are taking your time to do your show the way you want to do it, and you're not going to be intimidated by the people in the room just by bouncing the ball. Even when you put physical objects down, how do you put them down? Do you put them down consciously? Consciously like that? Take your time, put them down? Or do you just throw them down like that, sloppy? But when you own the room, every moment of the presentation is a complete experience. Every thought, every moment is complete and whole. There is no better moments. There's just this moment of now. And in this moment of now, you're going to create a fantastic communication. That's going to have the data, that's going to have the voice, it's going to have the video. It's going to be high definition. And you're going to send it across the space, and the audience is going to say, I've never seen anything like that before. Woo! Fantastic. And so you want to be a master presenter. You want to be a fantastic deliverer of communication. And therefore, you want to have the experience of owning the room. And owning the room is not a negative thing. Some people say, oh, it's negative. You wouldn't want to do anything, any move in the chess game of presenting in front of audiences that would offend the listening of the audience. Because if you do something that would offend, then the firewall of the audience comes up. And when the firewall of the audience comes up, your throughput goes down. But as you become more conscious up here, you become more appropriate in your delivery. And therefore, you're able to deliver your communication without offending. But people understand that you own the room. You are taking your time to maximize your contribution, to maximize your service to the audience. And you're not going to be intimidated by the audience. So the problem that you have is the number one fear you have is the fear of public speaking. You are concerned about what the audience thinks. You got to get to the point where I don't care what the audience thinks. You don't care what the audience thinks, because if you're concerned about what the audience thinks, then every time you say something, you always are waiting to hear back from the audience. Do you love me? Do you like me still? Do I look okay? Do you enjoy me? So therefore, you are being controlled by the audience. You're like a doormat up here. You got to get to the point that you're not the doormat. You represent a organization, you represent a corporation, and you are the spokesperson for that corporation, and you want to deliver a clear message. There's a saying that I enjoy. No one will follow an uncertain trumpet. You are the trumpet up here. If you play with uncertainty and nervousness, it creates a doubt in the people's mind. But when you are no longer afraid, you can stand up in front. And you can play with certainty, which is what you want to be able to do. Because that will inspire and give the customer a sense that you really do understand. You really are able to provide a solution which is going to make a difference to that person's business and that person's organization. So therefore, you want to get into the habit of walking in front of the room with the attitude that you own the room. And I want to end by saying is that the audience wants you to own the room. It's not like you're taking something that they don't want to give you. They would love for you to own the room, because then they can sit back and relax, and they can sit back and enjoy the show. Now that completes the fifth point and the final point of what I wanted to talk about today. And I want to thank you for listening, and I want to thank you for reading the Broadband Connection, and I look forward to someday maybe seeing you in person. Thank you very much.